This is the story of a boy and his many colorful fairies who keep waiting for each other to have an affair, and all of them get pregnant with him, and the boy also gets them married to hide the fact of their pregnancy. Let's see how. The story begins, and here a horse carriage is going on which a boy named Joneses, that is Roger, is sitting, and he is going to his home to spend his holidays. There is a lady with him whose name is Lapita. Actually, Roger's mother had sent Lapita to bring Roger. Now, here Roger's eyes go to Lapita's papaya. Her papaya was bouncing repeatedly due to the bad road, seeing which Roger's pants get wet. Lapita also wanted to give Roger the taste of her papaya. After some time, Roger reaches his home where his family members were waiting for him. Then Roger's mother's eyes go to his pants, and she asks the reason for the pants getting wet. There, his aunt defends him and says that let it go. All this happens at this age. Actually, because of Lapita's papaya, water had started dripping from his tap. Now the aunt was cleaning his pants with her hands. Then we see Roger's younger sister, Barca. Varka takes Roger for a walk in the jungle, where Roger meets Lapita. He talks to Lapita. Then suddenly, Miss Lapita gets a strong urge, and she lifts her gagra in front of Roger and starts spilling water. Seeing this, Roger starts thinking, what is she doing? After this, Roger starts going from there to the other side. Then Roger's foot slips, and he falls down. There, he hears the sound of a woman laughing, and he sees that a woman from his own house is warming the bed in the jungle. When that lady sees Roger, she starts smiling. After this, Roger gets scared and runs away from there. At night, Roger was having dinner with the family. His mother is a stickler for rules and keeps on interrupting Roger on every small thing. After dinner, Roger goes to his room to sleep. Then he hears a sound outside the room. He goes towards that sound and sees that a program of Helen, a maid of his house, has started. Someone was playing Helen's drum from behind that door. After this, Helen corrects her dress and leaves from there. Roger goes to sleep without turning on the tap. Then he sees Barca, who was hiding in his bed. Here, Varka tells him about her aunt. She says that our Aunt Margaret is still a virgin. Roger asks, how did you come to know about it? On this, Varka tells that Helen told her. Roger asks why our aunt has not yet got married. Varka says that she does not know. I have heard that she is very scared of men. The next morning, Varka takes Roger to the bank of a river, where all the servants of her house used to talk to each other while bathing. Varka and Roger are not talking to each other. They were having a meeting when two maids come to the riverbank. Both the siblings hide behind a tree. Both of them are having a meeting when three men pass by. These three men are the servants of Roger's house. All three start showing their taps to the maid from the other side of the river. Ursula was no less excited, and she also shows her melon. Seeing this, the servants get happy, but they were on the other side of the river, so they could not do anything. Barca and Roger are watching all this secretly. In the next scene, we see Roger's elder sister Elisha coming with her father, who is also welcomed by the family members. Here, Elisha hugs everyone, but says hi to Roger and leaves. Roger is unable to understand this discrimination against him and gets disappointed. To end Roger's disappointment, Varka takes him to the church where his Aunt Margaret tells her sin in front of the church father. She says that ever since my sister's son Roger has come home, I have been feeling sorry for him. I have become crazy. Sometimes I even dream about chatting with him. Roger, hiding on the roof, was listening to all this carefully. He starts thinking that now it is my turn to turn on the tap. Hearing this from Margaret, the priest gets worried, and after some time, the priest falls asleep. Then Roger also falls from the roof, after which the father and Margaret tell everything about him to his mother. Roger's mother asks the priest to tell him what punishment he should get. The priest says that 10 shots should be fired on his bamboo. Roger's mother also likes this idea. She asks her servant to bring a broom. Then she hands over this work to Margaret. Then a man named Roland comes there, and he starts laughing inside after seeing Roger in this condition. Margaret refuses at first, but when Roger's mother forces him, she beats Roger, due to which Roger's bum turns red. His maid Ursula and Barca were watching this program from outside. At night, Roger sleeps upside down because his watermelons had swollen. Then again, he hears the sound of a utensil falling outside. He goes outside to look. He sees that this time also someone was playing Helen's tabla, but sadly, he could not find out who was playing the tabla. This time, Mr. Frank was also watching along with Roger. Then Ursula came there and told Roger that I have seen you being beaten, and I know that you are in a lot of pain. If you want, I can remove your pain. Roger said that there is no need for this, and asked that when I go to sleep, with whom does Helen play her tabla? Do you know who is that person who plays Helen's tabla? Ursula said that this is a secret of the mates, and went from there. Roger started thinking that when will my turn come? When will I play the drums? After this, he went to meet Mr. Frank in his room, where Mr. Frank was looking at something with his hand in his pants. After this, his eyes fell on Roger, and Mr. Frank went from there. Now, Roger also started looking through the binoculars. He saw that the cave was being excavated at another place as well. Then he found a book kept on the table. In that book, there were girls' phone numbers. Romantic stories are also written. Roger quickly puts the book in his pants and leaves from there. While he was going towards his room, he hears some thumping sound from his parents' room. He tries to peep through the door, but Roland sees him peeping. Roger requests him to please please not tell anything about this to his parents. I will do as you say. Roland also gives him the job of cleaning his car. After this, Roger was hiding in the stable and reading the diary and drawing water from his tap. Then a servant of his house comes there, and Roger immediately hides in a corner. After that, Helen also comes to feed the chickens. Here, the servant traps Helen in the window and plays her DH from behind. Helen notices Roger and asks him for help, but when Roger comes forward to help, Helen stops him. Actually, Helen was also enjoying the DH playing. After this, when Roger comes out, the servant had finished his work. In the next scene, Roger is seen with his elder sister, and while Roland was talking to his fiancée Roland, he said to Roger, "Look how dirty my shoes are. Clean them properly." But Roger refuses to clean them. Roland gets angry and tells his mother about it. He says that Roger was peeping into your room yesterday. Roger's mother gets angry on hearing all this and says that she doesn't know who is giving all this knowledge to Roger. She immediately asks him to go out, but Roger, seeing the opportunity, replaces his book with his sister's book. After this, when Elisha was reading that book, Roger started watching her from outside, and a wave of lust was rising in his mind. Now, to calm her down, he started looking for Ursula, who was working in the kitchen. Roger quickly catches hold of Ursula's behind. Ursula thinks that he is a servant of the house, but as soon as she sees Roger, she pulls a plate and hits it on Roger's head. After this, Roger starts fainting, but Ursula says sorry to him and agrees to the plan, but then a fat maid comes there, and Roger runs away from there. Now Roger wanted a cave, so he remembers Lapita. He now walks towards Lapita, and seeing Lapita starts playing her drum from behind. Miss Lapita is unable to refuse him. Then a postman comes outside with a letter and says that the war has started. Germany has declared war on France. Hearing this, all the people gather there. Roger's thirst remains unfulfilled again, because the next day, all the men of that village had to go to war. Roger's family starts partying, but Mr. Frank says that I will not go to war. I have asthma. When Roger comes to know that all the men of his house are going to war, and he will stay alone at home, he thanks God. Now Roger starts waiting for everyone to leave, but at that time, before going to war, all the men used to have their wives in the jungle. Tonight, everyone is doing the same thing. They were doing this, and Roger was watching everyone enjoying themselves. Next day, everyone goes to war. Roger now first goes to Ursula. Ursula already liked Roger, so she shows Roger her cave and spends the whole night with Ursula. Her mother was telling the priest that her husband has with her in different positions. I also enjoy it a lot, but I feel that I am committing a sin. The priest says that you can do anything with your husband. It cannot be called a sin. In the next scene, we see Roger's maid Kate on the bank of the river. Then suddenly Roger comes out of the river and traps Kate in his words. One day, Roger's father came home. Actually, he was a colonel and could come home from the war anytime. At night, Roger's eyes fell on his Aunt Margaret and Kate. She was peeping into his parents' room. Now Roger enters his parents' room, where his parents were about to start. Then they are shocked to see Roger and scold him and send him away. After this, Margaret goes to her room to sleep, and then she sees Roger lying on her bed. Roger tells Margaret that I know that you are still a virgin. I have come to help you. At first, Margaret refuses, but later she is convinced. Meanwhile, Helen again comes in front of that door with tea, but this time the servant was missing, so she goes straight to Roger's room. Roger asks her that why do you come at this time only? Helen says that I just come to give tea and breakfast. Then she starts leaving from there when Roger catches her from behind and starts playing her game. The next day, Roger and Barca were sitting in the garden when Barca says, "Look who is coming." Roger sees that it was his sister Elisha. He understands Barca's gesture. He immediately reaches Elisha, who was feeding grass to the horse. Now Roger starts taking off her dress, but Elisha stops him. But Roger doesn't listen, and both of them do there. Now, all the women of the house are lined up in Roger's room and satisfy themselves. One day when Roger is with Elisha tells him that she is pregnant. Just then, a plane passes from there, and Roland is coming home sitting in it. Actually, the war is over. Now Roger comes home, and then Ursula comes in front of him and says that she is also pregnant. After that, his Aunt Margaret also comes and tells that she is also pregnant. Roger gets scared after this, and he first goes to Elisha and asks her to have a chit-chat with Roland and puts nail polish on her bed. After this, he goes to his aunt and says that please marry Mr. Frank. He loves you a lot and will take good care of you. After this, he goes to Ursula and proposes for marriage, but Ursula had already planned to marry someone else. All three ladies get married, but no one gets to know that what mischief Roger had done. Now one day, Roger chats with Helen for the last time. After a few days, Roger's holidays end, and he is about to go to his school. Then Helen comes there and says that I am also pregnant. Roger says that you don't worry, I will arrange a husband for you. Helen says that there is no need for this. Many men of this house have pulled me and played the tabla. Next morning, Roger leaves for his school and friends. The movie ends here. Subscribe the channel for similar romantic movies. We will meet again with a new movie.